Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network, presented to you by Bet365. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for this episode are my friends and co-hosts BJ Cunningham and Anthony DeBundo. Together, the three of us are going to go over the upcoming 10-match slate in the Premier League this weekend. We'll touch on the rest of the European leagues, give out a three-leg underdog parlay, 157-1, excruciatingly close to being very live with today's action, but oh well, we'll just have to hit this one instead. And then we'll talk about our favorite bets for the Premier League coming up. There was, of course, a shakeup in the midweek in terms of the title race. We'll get into all that, but we'll start there too with Arsenal, who, as we are recording Wednesday night. So City hasn't played yet. Arsenal are top of the league with City's yet with 2 games in hand. Arsenal has a 4-point gap on City, who play Brighton. They're a big favorite on Thursday, but it's a huge match. Another one for Arsenal on Sunday. This one will be played at Tottenham, and Spurs are 3-1 underdogs. Arsenal traveling as a odds-on -125 favorite. The draw here pays out 3-1. BJ. This is an Anthony versus BJ derby. This is a massive game. Now that Anthony's Liverpool have been eliminated from the title race, he can become a Spurs fan again.
Yeah.
So which is, makes his life a little bit easier. But you like Arsenal here, huh, BJ? And it's not just, is it just your heart? Be honest.
It's both. It's everything, right? Heart, my head, my everything. Arsenal looked amazing against Chelsea on Tuesday in a really bad spot. And I think there were a couple of things to take away from that match that really made Arsenal look a lot better. And the main one is Thomas Partey being inserted back into the lineup. If you go last season, he was Arsenal's most important player for the first half, and then he kind of fell off towards the second half. Him being in the lineup allows Declan Rice to push forward more, and you saw the effects of that with the very first goal, right? Rice is able to float, find space, got the ball, dribbled right at the defense, and got the assist for Trossard. So having Partey not only be an elite ball stopper, but Tomiyasu being able to invert as well, it just gives Arsenal so much more tactical flexibility. And also, when Arsenal does lose the ball in the opponent's final third, Rice is pushed up so far on them that you have one of your best counter pressers there ready to win the ball. So there's so many good things about Thomas Partey being inserted in the lineup that make Arsenal so much better. And if we go back to the first meeting, I know it ended a 2-2 draw, and Tottenham's one of the few teams that have created over 1 expected goal against Arsenal this season. The first half, Tottenham could not string 2 or 3 passes together or get the ball out of their own end. Arsenal suffocated them. 11 high turnovers for the match, a 7 passes per defensive action. Arsenal's coming off a match against Chelsea where it was game state dependent, not without a doubt, because they scored in the 4th minute, but they handed the ball to Chelsea. They conceded possession. They said, we don't think you're good enough to break us down, and we're good enough out of possession to control this match. So here you go, have the ball. And what did Arsenal do? They forced 14 high turnovers, and 6 of those led to shots. Tottenham is going to build out of the back. They're not going to send the ball long. So without Udogie now, which is a huge loss for Tottenham because he would be the one that would be defending Saka. Another thing Arsenal's been doing, Ben White's been overlapping quite a bit with Saka, which creates a lot of problems for opposing defenses who get in those 1v1s versus Saka. So I think there's a lot to like about Arsenal here. Yes, Tottenham does have the rest advantage. Yes, they're at home. But again, not having Udogie, which now creates a little bit of a problem of what Spurs are able to actually do in build-up. I think Arsenal's going to be able to control this match out of possession. I think that they're going to be very live on set pieces, as they always are, and they're going to be able to force high turnovers and create those easy transition moments. So projected Arsenal north of -130. So, the market's kind of gone up a little bit here on Tottenham. Like you said, Michael, it's at -125. So that's like -120 is probably the breaking point for me. So if you can find a -120 or better, I think that's good enough for Arsenal here on the road.
I think the fullbacks are the big key, and the thing that I'm concerned about for Spurs here. You mentioned Udogie being out. Poro is also listed as questionable here, 50-50 to go. Tottenham's fullbacks are so important in build-up, in how they like to use them, and I think they're going to be a huge key in trying to play through pressure. You can even go back to the United match way back in the beginning of the season, and even that Arsenal match way back in the beginning of the season, where Udogie, Porro, like their ability to be in possession, to get forward, to invert, really enabled them to play through United's press when it was not as bad as it is now, and Arsenal's press, which is maybe the best in the league. So their ability to do that without them becomes a little bit more shaky. And also their attack is worse. They get so much production from Udogie and Porro getting into the box, getting shots, because at the end of the day, Richarlison's listed as questionable too. When Richarlison's not in and the fullbacks are out, Son is giving them decent production. Maddison's been okay, and like they get there, but the attack is not relying on one or two, three guys. They rely on having all these numbers to produce. And when you start, kneecapping the secondary guys and say, you're not going to play, you're out, this guy's out, it is important. And you saw the market take a ton of Arsenal money on the Udogie news. But the thing is, it is a really still like the fact that Arsenal has played 3 matches since Spurs' last match is a huge difference in terms of fatigue potential here. It was just on the pod like 4 days ago. We were all like, "Oh man, Arsenal looks so tired. They look so gassed." They had one great performance, against Chelsea, a Chelsea team that we don't really think much of defensively, and now we're just going to go back to like they're free flying again. I can't quite get there. The total on this match I have right around 3.1. And now 3.5 is juiced under -150. If that got down to -140, I would take the under. So I'm going to wait and see on this one, get a little closer to game time. I am concerned about Tottenham's fullbacks, not even just defensively, but in going forward. And, I still have the same, I'm not going to overreact to one match where they created a bunch of chances, largely in transition against Chelsea. They should be able to do that again here. I'm curious who has more of the ball. I think that'll be more interesting. While it's 0-0, which team do we think has more of the possession? I think is an interesting way of thinking about this match, because Tottenham have controlled matches against almost everybody they've played this year. But again, like they played Liverpool when they had 9 men, and they played, Arsenal at Arsenal. That was the one match where they maybe didn't control it, but they had a good amount of possession. So who has the majority of the possession will be really interesting here, because Arsenal's away from home. They could come out and look to play on the break again. I think that's a very viable strategy for them.
Yeah. I would tend. I think I'm going to end up betting Spurs here on Sunday morning. It just goes into the fatigue factor. We saw it with Liverpool and Everton today, and maybe it's a little apples to oranges, a little bit, given how those teams want to play Arsenal compared to Liverpool. But it's a factor here. Like it's not. We can't just. Like you said, like just forget that we were saying, "Ooh, what a terrible spot against Chelsea," on the Sunday episode. Now that it's a couple days later and they throttled Chelsea, who, by the way, can happen to them. So I like Spurs here. It's cliche to say it, but in a match like this where you're trying to cause your eternal rival to lose the title, I'm expecting a thriller here, so I think that actually helps Spurs a little bit. If it gets a little hectic, like that's what they want to be in, right? Like they want to be in a cauldron where you got people baying for blood and such.
Yeah, I have Arsenal -110, so I'm like pretty much in line with the market on this one. So no real side opinion.
Well, thank you for adding that. Let's go on to we'll go Liverpool and West Ham, and first we got to say that Liverpool lost the league at Goodison Park. They lost the league at Goodison Park. And now they have to go to West Ham. Boy, you want to talk about a flat spot, man. This is tough. The line's already come down a bit on West Ham, and we've got very little like enthusiasm to bet this Hammers team, but unless you're just betting into Liverpool winning one for the Gipper here and just trying to and like look, they're going to try to stay in. Who knows? Maybe City drops points to Brighton, but it's really hard to find. I would be hard pressed to find anyone who'd be confident laying -180 with Liverpool on the road, considering once again the schedule spot. Right, like this is still a ton of soccer piling up on these guys. They looked pretty gassed today. The Mo Salah looks way out of sorts. So the back line too was really having issues with set pieces, and Hey, David Moyes, he loves himself a set piece. So
Aerial duels.
yeah, exactly. It's I'm not saying the same game's going to play out again, but if there were two opponents that could do it back to back, it would be these two. So I would lean towards West Ham here, in pretty. I'd be much more emphatic about betting West Ham than Liverpool, who lost the league today at Goodison Park. BJ, your thoughts here, West Ham and Liverpool?
Yeah. If the same game plays out, which it probably will, where West Ham tries to play very passively and just takes on a bunch of shots, they are significantly worse in their defensive block than Everton is. Yeah. So that's a worry here if you're going to back West Ham, right? Like, they can definitely hit Liverpool on the break. They have the guys to do it. They have the ball carriers. They have the pace to be able to hit them. But I'm just envisioning Darwin Nunez taking like 10 shots in this match, and 6 of them being hilarious misses, but also scoring twice.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I mean, West Ham, you might want to look at Liverpool shot over props. It might be a little bit game state dependent, but yeah, West Ham, they just don't defend anymore. They're going to sit passively. They're going to allow Liverpool in their final third. And Liverpool's not really a team that, and you saw that against Everton today, that really, really works hard to get the best quality chance. It's kind of just like, once it opens up, boom, shot. And that's why a lot of shots got blocked today. So I'm passing. Like, I'm right in line with the market. I have Liverpool at minus 166, total at 3.6. So there's really just no value for me here. So I'm passing.
I'm going to hope they rotate. Because, I think if they do rotate, I want to bet them at the reduced price.
4th straight road match, too.
Right. That's the thing. 4th straight road match in 10 days. They get the early kickoff Saturday morning after the Wednesday.
Klopp won't have anything to say about that.
Brutal travel all the way back from Everton, too.
Right.
Factor that in. But, yeah, I think that, if Liverpool rotates some guys in here and we get some fresh legs and they still get to go at this terrible West Ham defense, and I'm going to get like minus 150 instead of minus 180 because Salah sits, a cooked version of Salah, then I'm happy to take Liverpool at a discount. But right now, at the current price, with not knowing anything about the lineups, I'm going to pass.
All right, let's go now to City and Forest. With Forest as a big underdog at home, they are plus 650, between plus 550 and 650, depending where you're looking. City minus 250. The draw is plus 450. I think all of us are going to be on the same page here, with Forest being a pretty tricky team for this. For City to unlock. City's light years better than them, but we know how Forest is going to want to play. We know what Nuno's going to want them to do, and they're still in the thick of this relegation battle, so they're going to want any bit of the 3 points available here, whether it's 1 or 3 between them and City. They're 1 point clear of Luton Town right now, only 3 points clear of Burnley. They have the points deduction to contend with, so that's all playing into this too. But I just think this is going to be a park the bus special, even at home for Forest, BJ, and it could help Forest have at least a platform to cover the spreads, which is where you guys, I'm sure, are going to be looking.
Yeah, I do like Forest plus 1.5 here. Chelsea, we're obviously, like you said, we're recording this for the Brighton match, so we don't know what happens there. But the match that we've at least seen is the FA Cup match against Chelsea, where City really struggled to figure out Chelsea's low block. And what Chelsea did, so they played kind of a unique low block, and they tried it against Arsenal. It didn't work, but they played a 4-2-4 low block. And the reason why they did that is because when City tries to build up, and usually it's a back three, and then it varies in the second and third phases of build up. But if they're going with a back three, if Chelsea is able to be aggressive out of that, which they were trying to press out of that low block. If they're pressed and able to win the ball, they have a 4v3 situation. You saw that work a couple times. Again, Nico Jackson could have put a couple away. Like, they had chances for sure. So you could see Nottingham Forest really replicate the exact same game plan. Like, yes, it'll be a park the bus special. They'll play a little bit deeper, but I think you'll see them be a little bit aggressive out of their low block, trying to press City, trying to win the ball. They've been a little bit more aggressive with their pressing under Nuno. Like, it's not like a huge jump. Like, they were the most passive team in the league under Steve Cooper. Pass per defensive action of 18.8 under Nuno. They're about 15.2. So there's been some onus to actually press and not just sit back. And they have the pace and the guys that can give City problems in transition, with Morgan Gibbs-White, Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Reina, etc. They have the pace to be able to do it. And, the previous match, Rodri got a red card at halftime when City was already up 2-0. But even up to that point, like City hadn't really like dominated the match or created a bunch of high quality chances. Like they were still struggling against Forest's slow block. So it's also Forest who's played much better at home the entire season, around a +3 expected goal differential. Been much better offensively under Nuno, averaging close to a little over 1.4 expected goals per 90 minutes. So I think Forest, who is well drilled and used to playing a low block, can give City some problems. Who the last couple matches have kind of struggled trying to figure out low blocks. So I like Forest +1.5 here. Only projected City a little north of -150. So I like the trees at home.
Yeah, Erling Haaland out for Thursday, questionable for Sunday too. So that's important to note. Obviously, the drop off between him to Alvarez, it's like half a goal of expected goals per 90 minutes they're getting from Haaland versus Alvarez, even when you take out penalties. So I know Haaland hasn't been quote unquote as good as last year in finishing issues, but it's still a big gulf.
Yeah, you know what? Now we've been talking about it. I actually don't hate the draw here at all.
I don't either.
Yeah, I think that this could end up 1-1. So +450 on the draw. I think I'm gonna be there. So
we're betting against these title teams a lot in the last 3 weeks. You can pretty much bank on that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. How about Crystal Palace? Just an absolute juggernaut under Glasner, who were like, "What is this guy doing? Is he started at to?" They look the same basically, and well, he's got them rocking and rolling a bit here, coming off of their third straight win. They've beaten Liverpool, West Ham, and then Newcastle United by a aggregate score of 8-2. The most recent being a win against Newcastle at home, a thorough 2-0 win, and we're gonna be right back on him, all three of us, on Palace here. I like the money line. You guys are going with the spread. Anthony, you can get it started here as they take on Fulham.
I'll tell you what, every time you kept reading, I felt less and less like I like Palace here. Just like, oh, look at this, new manager.
Yeah, it feels
healthy,
square, but
3 in a row. The most trendy dog on the face of the earth this weekend. It feels that way about them. But, I watched every minute of the Newcastle match today. They were the only team in it, dominated a Newcastle team that had been trending up. The Eze, they even sat Olise for the first half-ish of the match, and Mateta might get to 10 league goals this year, and he's been on a bit of a heater. But yeah,
Golden Boot, dark horse.
Next season?
No, you
don't
think he can score 25 more goals?
Cole Palmer wasn't even on.
He only needs 12 or 13 more goals.
Yeah,
we're okay.
That's true. Yeah, Palmer wasn't even available
this season. Come on, that guy's cooked.
Yeah,
he caught a cold. But there's not a ton of difference between these two teams for me right now. In fact, Palace is a little better with everybody healthy than Fulham, I think. So, you're getting +0.5 at -120-ish. I think it's good. Nothing too crazy here. I think it's square. I think, maybe we're catching Palace toward the top of the market on them, but they're the team that looks like they're sprinting into the finish and actually wants to be out there, and they're playing good stuff.
Well, the good news is we're going to be betting them again the following week, match week 2.
They play Liverpool at Selhurst, don't they?
No, they play Manchester United.
Oh, even better.
Yeah, we'll be laying -2.5 and -3.5 with Palace.
I think they might be like a pick 'em in that game. I haven't looked at the lines, but that's a guess.
BJ?
Yeah. So under Glasner, they're really just starting to build out of the back more, control more possession. Anthony mentioned that playing Olise and Eze both centrally. Well, they're also dropping them deep when they try to build up, and they're forcing center backs and defensive midfielders out of position and spaces they don't really want to go, combining with Mateta. You saw that a lot today against Newcastle. This guy, Adam Wharton, came over from Blackburn. He's incredible. You shouldn't be a surprise because Palace historically just don't miss on guys from the championship, because obviously they hit on Olise and Eze and many other guys. But him with a double pivot with Will Hughes has been working really well so far. And even when Palace is out of possession, they're pressing really well, and then they're falling back into a 5-3-2. They're a really well drilled defensive team. We know that from Roy Hodgson, but the thing is once, I mean, it goes without saying, but with Eze and Elise on the pitch together, they're averaging 1.7 expected goals per 90 minutes. Under Glasner, they've now played 5 matches against teams in the bottom half of the table, and they have a plus 4.7 expected goal differential against those 5 teams. So just much better with their best 2 players, much better with a manager that has tactics that cater to his best players. So I agree with Anthony. Like, these 2 teams are like bang on even since Glasner took over. So Palace plus a half.
Okay. Let's talk about Manchester United next. Amazing.
Great win
Amazing.
today, right?
Amazing win, man.
It was actually a
Harry
pretty good
Maguire.
performance, all things considered.
Yeah. Harry Maguire sticking it to his boyhood club. He still goes to Sheffield United matches, which is, I love that. So he gets United even, and then Bruno scores twice in a 3-2 thriller against Sheffield United. Now they take on another relegation threatened team, and they're minus 210 at home, and Burnley is 5-1 on the road, and the draw is 4-1. And do we even need to go into it? Like, I mean, if you're struggling to get results against Sheffield United, and it wasn't an aberration or a blip on the radar, your past 2 matches have been absolute slobber knockers against Coventry City, Sheffield United, and before that, you drew Bournemouth. So it's not good. So why not take a shot with Burnley here? It does look like the numbers, they've come down a bit, but because nobody believes in United, but still, I'll take a 5-1 shot with a team fighting relegation against this mess at Old Trafford. BJ.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's interesting how United conceded the first goal. So before the match, it came out that the new president or the new owners want to play a specific style. So they're forcing Ten Hag to play a more possession-based style, which he did play at Ajax. He just can't right now because they have nobody healthy. And they try to build out of the back, and they just concede a really easy goal off of a back pass from the goalkeeper right into the back of the net. Burnley's a team that likes to press. They haven't done it much because, they get beat in transition too many times. But given the way that Sheffield United, who had been one of the more passive teams we've seen all season long, was able to cause problems for United trying to build out of the back, like, of course they can cause some problems here, force some high turnovers, and get some easy transition opportunities. I mean, United played Manu and Eriksson in the midfield today. Like, that's zero to little ball winning. Like, Manu's great, but he's not an elite ball stopper yet. So they just have nothing. Nobody's healthy. Like, the United attack is still good and everything, but this is going to be another basketball match. And United can't really outscore. I mean, they got a cut. Like, Bruno scored a penalty, and then from outside the box, and then Højlund got one when the match got stretched. But I like Burnley plus 1.5 here. You can get still a minus 140 out there. They have underperformed lately. Like, they've been okay. Like, they're not as bad as Sheffield. They're not as bad as Luton. So they definitely can give United some problems here. So I like them plus 1.5.
Yeah, so I got Burnley at 1.2 goals, which puts them right around 33-ish% to score twice. So, like, plus 180 is not like a great value bet, plus 185, but that's been the bet we've been doing on this show just about every other week with, team total over 1.5 against Man United. We had Bournemouth and Coventry. And, I think at the end of the year here, I'm going to have some money on Burnley team total for the similar reasons that this is just one of the worst defenses I've ever seen from a Big Six team. They've now conceded the most shots in the Premier League, which is remarkable. That was before today, so maybe Sheffield probably got passed again, but it's pretty remarkable that they're that far down the table in that metric, given their name and brand. But you mentioned it, BJ. I mean, Shaw and Martinez are important to build up. Not having either is killing them, and it's never been a strength of Maguire's. So, Onana gets pressed, and there's just so little respect from these teams. I mean, Sheffield comes and just gives it a go and, goes up 2-1 in the second half. They ultimately fold because they're Sheffield. But, I think Burnley's live here to score a couple of times again, and we're going to go back to the well, as we like to do on this show.
Yep. Yeah, and probably our favorite well for this season. Not too much from any of us on Newcastle and Sheffield United. Newcastle right now is sitting at minus 450. They are the biggest favorite on the board for this week, and Sheffield United's traveling to St. James at 10-1. Draw here 6-1. Of course, Sheffield United is relegated. Got nothing here. Anything from you guys?
No, I just looked at Ishak. Anytime goal scorer is like minus 150. So no, thank you.
Kind of tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah,
I have 3.6 goals
an
projected here.
easy pass.
3.6
to score is still like minus 180 something. So like I don't really have any interest in anything here.
I think there's a funny story to this, which is I bet the under 3 at like even money in the first meeting. This was way back in September. And I remember it was like 2.8 goals I had, or 2.85. And now I project 3.6 goals. So it just shows you how much the goal environment's changed, how much these teams have changed. Just, with the bottom falling out for Sheffield and Newcastle's defense, and just crazy how much can change in 6 months. But here's where we are, and I have no bet here.
All right, then we can move on. Luton Town and Wolves up next. Obviously, massive game for Luton as they continue their battle to stay in the Premier League. Wolves as a slightly odds-on favorite, minus 106 at home. Luton traveling plus 260. The draw is plus 280. You guys both like Wolverhampton. I'm going to pass here. Anthony, tell us about Wolves.
I think Luton's going to be a popular pick here. You're going to hear the punditry that's going to say, Wolves are in poor form. They're on the beach. They're looking toward next season. They got all these injuries, all of which is probably true. Luton Town, they need the win. They're only 1 point behind Forest in the relegation picture. They have 4 matches left. This is one of their better chances to get a result. I think they have Brentford and Everton left. Or they have Everton left, so maybe that's their best one. But tough stretch for them to close. And you're going to say, Luton, they're going to get the result they need. But the number is overcompensating for that. The market is saying that Luton is just a smidge worse than Wolves. There's almost a half goal between them. Home field advantage, throws in there as well. I know Wolves are playing like half of a changed team, but at even money, I think they're cheap. So not a huge play for me. I don't like to like overstake these favorites with no motivation, but it's definitely a small play just based on the number being so much lower than it should be at this point in the season.
Yeah, the injury situation actually isn't that bad for Wolves as I think people are making it out to be, because Cunha was on the bench. He came off the bench against Bournemouth today. Who knows if he plays, obviously, but at least he's healthy and available to play. Really, the only guys that are out are Dawson, Bellegarde, and Neto. Other than that, everybody's available. The 2 best midfielders, Lamina and Gomez, are available. Kielman's available, like the whole back line's available. So yeah, like Anthony said, like this is a very suppressed price on a Wolves team that has overperformed quite a bit. But I think what will be interesting here is how good Wolves is trying to build out and how aggressive Luton is out of possession with their pressing, because Wolves has had, they played all right against Arsenal. Like they exposed some flaws in Arsenal's press, but they really struggled against Bournemouth today. They turned it over a ton in their own final third. Luton is not even anywhere close to as good of a pressing team as those two teams are. So if they try to go man to man, and Luton is still missing a ton of center backs here, like it's not like it's gotten any better. It's a good spot for Wolves, who have played much better at home this season, and they don't have to travel. Like they just played at home against Bournemouth. They're going to be at home here again. So yeah, a lot of must-win tax here for Luton Town. So I projected Wolves around minus 140. So
minus 151.
Yeah. So I like them at even money.
All right, let's move it on. Team of the year, Everton. They are taking on Brentford. 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time kickoff at Goodison Park. Everton plus 140, Brentford plus 190. The draw here pays out plus 250. Of course, just a massive win for Everton on just about every level. Today against Liverpool, they've won 2 in a row. They are free and clear, it seems. So on 33 points, Brentford free and clear too. A little bit of a we're not on the beach just yet, but we're getting there, Bull. I would say Brentford would probably be the right side here. I'm going to pass though. I got nothing here, Anthony.
Yeah, short rest, quick turnaround is tough. Such a physical, emotional match. Kind of their Super Bowl really at this point. Now they've basically secured, safety, and they have the short rest spot. It's funny because something interesting else happened today. I went back and looked. Everton's preseason point total. Way back when we did the Wondergoal draft, we did back in August with Alan Shapiro, and he came on, and we did. We each picked all 20 teams over or under, and we'll release the results when we know more about the teams and who won this year. But Everton was 40.5. So the win today put them at 33. Now, we have to debate. I think we should grade it like there wasn't a points deduction, in fairness, to Alon, who bet the over in the show. He had over 40.5, which cashed today. So all the hand wringing we've done about Everton this year, we've probably talked about them more than any team on the pod not named Arsenal. They went over their preseason point total with 4 matches to spare. Based on the way we've bet them this year, the heartbreak they've caused us, you would have thought they were like the worst team that has ever lived. And it's just kind of the reality that, like, yes, they can't score from open play. They have their flaws. The market always thought they were pretty solid. They've surpassed preseason market expectations. Maybe they haven't met in-season market expectations. But, all this hand-wringing about how horrible Everton is, that has gone on, I think, in the public, and because they were in this relegation battle because of point deductions, not how good they actually are, was funny to kind of look back on now. So congrats to Alon and getting that win over 40.5. And I'm going to hope I get my 4 points back for my Nottingham Forest over too, because I have them in the pool.
Well, I wanted to ask you anything. Are you going to be able to watch this match? How many set pieces they're going to be?
It's going to be horrendous. What time is the kick?
12:30 Eastern.
The island game? No, look, I don't hate set pieces. They don't excite me. What got exciting today? First of all, I was dreading set pieces because I knew Everton had a huge edge, and it was like every time the ball went in the box, it felt like they were going to score, and I had the under. But the crowd roar when they win a corner is amazing. That is worth it. Yeah,
it's the best.
It was a wonderful atmosphere.
DCL bodying up Van Disney all day.
Yeah, that was great.
I'm on. People. You were texting me in our group chat, making fun of me because Liverpool went down. Look, I'm out. I'm on to Arnie. We the Nord are coming to Anfield next year. Arnie Slot, the manager of Feyenoord, now the favorite to take the Liverpool job. Kind of a poor man's. He's like a Walmart Klopp in a way. So you know what? We'll take it.
Yeah. The names linked to Liverpool are not going to stop. It's hilarious. So Gary O'Neill, which I thought would be hilarious, fired from Bournemouth, does a pretty good job with Wolves. Massive step up to Liverpool.
Former
Arnie
Liverpool,
makes too much sense. Also, it truly is an impossible job.
Yeah. No, I think it's almost you want to hire someone who you're totally comfortable with firing in 3 months.
Just hire Mourinho. They just should do it.
They can't do it. But
hands off Ange. I can't hate Ange.
The squad is honestly, if they went for Ange, I don't think he would leave. But like if he did, I would respect it.
Okay,
that was his club, right?
Yeah, but I would be furious.
Yeah, because you want to root for Ange and you want to root for against Liverpool. But no, I think Arnie's a perfect hire. I think going in that mold. Now the last bald man to come out of the Dutch league.
Yeah, everyone said was a perfect hire.
I like Ten Hag. Yeah, I thought he'd do better than this. But also Liverpool's a much better run club than Man United, so it's a very, very different situation that he'd be dropping into. If you just watch Feyenoord play Atletico Madrid and Roma and all their great European nights they've had, you become an Arnie fan.
Villa and Chelsea up next. This one 3 p.m. Eastern time on Saturday afternoon. Villa plus 120 at home. Chelsea traveling at 2-1 plus 280. This looks right to me. I got nothing to go into. In fact, Anthony, you're the only one with a bet here.
So these two teams met twice in the cup, and it was pretty funny because the first meeting, nothing happened, and then the second meeting, it all happened. And I kind of think this is a match where, it has two wide range outcomes, but I think the total is a little low at over 3.5 plus 115. So given how little defending we've seen from Chelsea in transition and how little defending we've seen from Villa in transition, the fact that Chelsea should have Cole Palmer back, so you figure they'll get about a penalty and a half with him in the lineup. There's going to be constant space in behind, and there's going to be time on the ball for Chelsea. Chelsea have struggled most with Arsenal and Liverpool's high pressure, turning them over and creating all kinds of chances. Villa does not really press. There's going to be time and space for them to pick out those runners on the wings, get the crosses into Jackson. Hopefully Jackson scores one or two because he's been killing Chelsea bettors the last couple of weeks. But this total is a little low for me. Should be a flat 3.5. So plus money is good.
Okay. Let's move on to the last Premier League match we'll talk about. That's Bournemouth and Brighton. Once again, Anthony, you're the only one with a play here. It's a 9 a.m. kickoff on Sunday. I have a feeling most people will be watching Spurs and Arsenal. But nonetheless, Bournemouth plus 130 at home. Brighton traveling at plus 200. The tie here would pay out plus 260. Brighton hasn't played City, so take it away, Tony.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a broken record because I do this every episode, but Ferguson ruled out for the season now. Going to get ready for next year. Kind of ready to buy the post-hype breakout of Evan Ferguson next fall. But either way, their attack is running out of guys here, and like Fati is back, but he's played sparingly this year, and Enciso is back, but he's played so little. Like so many of the guys that they now have healthy have played so few minutes that I just don't know what we're going to get from them. And as a result, I'm waiting to see how Thursday looks. Maybe the market moves off of that, but there's a 3.25 at minus 115. I have this total right at 3, so I would like the under there at that number.
Yeah, I'm a little bit interested in Bournemouth here. I want to see how Thursday goes with City because I do have Bournemouth at plus 111, and the matchup here with their hybrid press with Brighton wanting to build out of the back. I know Wolves is not a very good build out of the back team, but I was incredibly impressed by Bournemouth today and the way they're able to win the ball in the middle of the pitch. So, with Brighton running out of guys, not having Billy Gilmore, who is incredibly crucial to their build up, and finding those pockets of space in the middle. Like the range of outcomes here is, I think, far worse for Brighton than it is good. And they're obviously in a situation where they're in the middle of the table. Their manager's leaving. So, especially coming off a one less day of rest. I don't hate a look at Bournemouth here. They're sitting at plus 130 right now. So, again, going to see how Thursday goes with Brighton. Maybe we'll get a better price on Bournemouth, but kind of like the Cherries.
All right. That wraps up the Premier League. We will circle back at the end of the show with our favorite bets. But before we get into the Bundesliga and the rest of Europe, a reminder that Wondergoal is proudly presented by Bet365, and Bet365 doesn't do ordinary. That's why you get more boosts with them than anyone else. Every day they power up the odds on hundreds of bets to give you a chance to win more. Bet365 boosts specific markets, your winnings, and even parlays, and they don't stop there. Keep an eye out for their biggest and best odds with the incredible Super Boost. Check out the boost and see why it's never ordinary at Bet365. You must be 21 or older and present in Arizona, Colorado, Indiana, Iowa, Louisiana, New Jersey, Ohio, Virginia, and now North Carolina, or 18 and older in Kentucky. If you or anyone you know has a gambling problem and wants some help, please call 1-800-GAMBLER or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. Terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. All right, Bundesliga time. You guys will take it from here. BJ, you can go first.
Yeah, I like RB Leipzig, minus 140 against Dortmund in a look-ahead spot with Dortmund having to play in the Champions League against PSG. Leipzig, I know Germany's already secured the 5th spot, and Dortmund has a pretty clear gap over Freiburg, but Leipzig's been in really good form. Won 4 of their last 5 matches, have a plus 8.8 expected goal differential, even though they're kind of on the beach per se. I think they're going to want to keep that good form going. They also present a huge problem for Dortmund, which we already know about, is that Dortmund has zero to little ball winning in the middle of the pitch, and they really struggle defending in transition. Amir Can is also suspended for this match, so if Leipzig's going to attack transitionally through their 4-2-2-2, Dortmund's not going to be able to stop it. Leipzig's averaging close to 2 expected goals this season, and the other aspect is Dortmund is not a good build-up team. They play much better in transition. They're indecisive in build-up. They constantly turn the ball over their own end. So with Leipzig pressing them relentlessly, it just presents a really bad situation here for Dortmund, who don't really need to win, honestly. So I think they're going to have one eye in the Champions League. So I like Leipzig minus 140.
Yeah, I'm going to take Werder Bremen plus a half on the road at plus money against Augsburg. Faded Augsburg last week successfully. I'm going back to the well. If you take out red cards, since the second half started, they're a bottom 4 defense. And so is Werder Bremen. So, I'm not like going to hype them up, but I just think this defense is super overvalued and the team has run really good. They're like almost a full half goal better than their expected numbers in the second half. So I think there's regression coming for this Augsburg team. I said it last week. We won. I'm going back to the well, as we like to do on this show. And I'm taking Werder Bremen plus a half at plus 105.
All right, let's move on to Serie A. And BJ, you can get us started here too.
Over 2.5 in Lecce and Monza. Monza's a really interesting team because they're in the bottom half of the table, and typically teams in Italy and around Europe, honestly, when you're in the bottom half of the table, play low block, transitional type, systems. But Monza actually plays. They've taken principles from De Zerbi's Brighton and Thiago Motta's Bologna, where they want to build out of the back. They want the opponent to press them, and then they like to get the ball's outlets out wide, create overloads wide areas there. And then once they get to the third phase of build-up, they create an overload in the middle of the pitch, which is what Thiago Motta essentially does at Bologna. The problem with that is that, yes, they've been okay doing that, but when they play teams that are like halfway decent at pressing, which nobody really presses in Serie A anymore, they tend to falter and they tend to turn the ball over a lot in their own final third. Lecce is a unique team in the bottom half of the table where they will press you. They are top 5 in high turnovers. They're 6th in passes per defensive action. So this is going to create one of two things. Either Monza is going to be able to draw on their pressure and get through the first and second and get to that third phase build up with numbers, or they're going to turn it over and they're going to allow a pretty easy transitional opportunity. So I think total's too low here. Projected 2.8 goals. So over 2.5 at plus 130 for me in Monza and Lecce, which is 9 a.m. on Saturday morning.
So, yeah, I don't love anything in Serie A. Nothing jumps off the page from a numbers perspective. I'm in line with the market on every game. But if you wanted to take a shot, and I'm going to later on, Torino plays Inter. Inter clinched the title. The season's pretty much done. And Torino's still going to show up and defend with the best of them. The thing is, if Inter's at it defensively, I only have Torino projected for 0.49 goals. So, not the most exciting team to back, but again, if you get an Inter team that sits off defensively and Torino gets up, are they going to really care? Are they still partying on the streets of Milan? That's the question. It's officially partying in the streets season for some of these big time favorites that are out of the other cups and competitions.
All right, Spain, Anthony, what do you got?
We haven't faded Sevilla as a podcast in a while. BJ, what's going on there?
Oh, I did on Monday and they lost, or they beat Mallorca. So
okay, so we lost.
We're back. No,
we're due then. In that case, Real Betis is plus 110. Their numbers have quietly fallen off a ton this year. They have not been a very good team, but at home they're still projected for me better than Sevilla, and they're only plus 110. So I like them in this spot. Sevilla, did the thing where they flirted with relegation for the first half, and they had like a good enough winning run to pull out of it, but their numbers are still well below league average. Betis closer to just a slightly below average. So Real Betis plus 110 in Spain.
Yeah, and I like Mallorca, draw no bet, plus 118 on the road at Cadiz. Cadiz, this is a must-win situation for them. They are 6 points behind both Mallorca and Celta Vigo with 6 matches left to play here in La Liga. But Cadiz is one of the worst teams in Spain this season. They're horrible offensively. They're your just traditional 4-4-2, low block, just rely on a few transition opportunities and crosses to create all of their chances. Mallorca plays very similarly, where they do play a low block as well, but they've played it more successfully this season. They're a better defensive team, better offensive team. And what I love about Mallorca is they are the definition of set piece merchants. 11 of their 25 goals or non-penalty goals this season have come off of set pieces. Cadiz is one of the worst teams in terms of XG per set piece allowed. So I mean, like there's a 6-7 goal gap in terms of underlying numbers here, and we got Cadiz as a little slight favorite here at home, which I just don't agree with. It's just must-win tags because Cadiz needs this one. So Mallorca draw no bet plus 118.
Okay, and BJ, you're the only one with anything in Ligue 1.
Yeah, actually a pretty important match for European or Europa Conference League spots. Marseille and Lens. I like over 2.5 at -110. Lens is generally a defense that has overperformed a lot this season. A lot of that came down to Bryce Samba just drastically overperforming his post-shot XG, but he's kind of regressed a little bit. He had about 6 matches ago, he was at a plus 9.8. Now he's down to about a 7.5. So you're seeing that regression kind of more towards the mean. Marseille is a much better team when they're playing in transition, which the same thing with Lens. So you could see a very back and forth type encounter. And I know Marseille has a Europa League semifinal coming up on Thursday against Atalanta, but they need to win to get into a European spot for next season. So they could go on for the Europa League, but generally they've been playing these very up and down matches under Gasset. So I like over 2.5 -110.
Okay. Pretty exciting underdog parlay for us this week. It pays out 157-1. Anthony, you can get us started.
Back-to-back 1 out of 3s for us, but we hit a 5-1. BJ hit one Saturday, and then Everton for us. So
Sheffield United was right there.
Sheffield had a chance. Chelsea, right around the corner, just missed on them. Would they lose by 5? Yeah. So I'm gonna go with Torino 6-1. Not a numbers projected edge for me, but at the end of the season, we get these high variance teams that don't really care if they win or lose anymore necessarily. And we've seen Inter be pretty healthy with their rotation of their top strikers at various points this season. So if you get like a Sanchez and Arnautovic lineup, all of a sudden this game becomes much more lower event. Torino is a stout defensive team, and they're going to be plenty interested in spoiling. They got a chance to say they beat the champs. So I think Torino will be up for it. They always play hard under Juric. And, Inter, we've seen this with like Bayern when they clinched the league really early. PSG last year dropped a couple games late. You just don't really care as much. They lost to Mainz, Bayern did last year. So you get these kind of spots where, they don't quite get us up for it. The Mainz game was 2 years ago, but you get the point.
All right, I'll go with Burnley. This is simple. Like, let's keep trying and keep poking this Manchester United team with these big underdogs. They just had a real rough and tumble win, a feel bad win, as we were talking about last weekend against Sheffield United, 20th place. And then right before that was the FA Cup semifinal where they needed penalties and an absolutely incredibly fortunate VAR decision to go their way to get by Coventry City of the championship. Not that complicated. Burnley fighting for their lives. I think that they give United quite a scare at the very least on over the weekend. BJ, what do you got?
Crystal Palace plus 275 on the road against Fulham. For Crystal Palace, they've had a real resurgence under Glasner, and it really just comes down to the fact that their best two players, Elise and Eze, are both healthy, and Glasner is using tactics that actually benefit those two players. He's dropping them deep in build-up. He's pulling defenders out of position. He's combining with Mateta, and it's really created a really fun Crystal Palace team so far. Under Glasner, they've played 5 matches against teams in the bottom half of the table, and they have a plus 4.7 expected goal differential against those teams, which tells you all you need to know. Fulham has just been kind of a bang-on average team over here over the second half of the season. They have been playing more aggressively. They have been trying to press higher. So if they try to do that at home when they're favorites, which I think they might try to do, Crystal Palace is going to have some opportunities here with their build-up. So I like Crystal Palace plus 275.
Yep, like I said, Palace, Torino, and Burnley. That one pays off 157-1. If they all come through. On to our favorite bets for the upcoming Premier League weekend. I'll go first because, BJ, you just talked about my favorite bet. I like Crystal Palace on the money line against Fulham. I think these two teams is basically a coin flip when you put them on a neutral field. So I like that the way Palace is trending towards the end of the season. Everything looks A-okay under Oliver Glasner. Anthony, what do you got?
I'm going to make it the square play of the weekend because I really struggled to have a best bet this weekend because I wanted to use Wolves, but BJ first took them, and then also it's they're kind of a disaster. So I'm going to be square. Play Huey Lewis in the news. I'm going with it's hip to be square. Crystal Palace plus a half at -120 at Fulham. I'm going to ride this Eze Elise train. I keep watching them and being impressed. So you know what? Screw it. I'm going with them.
Yeah, and I like Wolves. Even money at home against Luton Town. We're just getting a lot of must-win tax here on Luton Town, who need all 3 points here to get out of the relegation zone. I think the market is overweighting Wolves' injuries right now. Well, Cunha's back. Hee-Chan Huang is back. Really, it's just Pedro Neto is their main key loss right now. Otherwise, they pretty much have their full squad. They're playing at home against Luton Town, who's been the worst defensive team in the Premier League, worst defensive team in 2024. They have very little center backs healthy. They're going to have to play very aggressively out of possession. Wolves had showed against Arsenal that they have the ability to build out through good pressing teams, especially through the middle of the pitch. And now that they have Cunha available, they have that outlet and that person in transition who can get on the end of those final third chances. And I mean, Brentford was able to do that with great success, scoring 5 goals against Luton Town. I think Wolves going to have a lot of success here offensively, and they're a fantastic low block and transition defending team. So I like Wolves even money.
All right, that does it for this episode of Wondergoal, presented by Bet365. For BJ and Anthony, I'm Michael. Good luck with all your bets this weekend. Happy Anzac Day to all our Australian and listeners in New Zealand as well. Hopefully you have a nice holiday weekend. But until we reconvene over the weekend, best of luck with all your bets.